Yo, 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 yo. Big Kish back up in here. We got fantastic hip hop. We ain't reacted fantastic hip hop in a couple days, man. We got to get their perspective on what's going on with this Drake and Kendrick Lamar thing. What's going on with this Drake and UMG thing, man? That's right. We about to get it. I will leave a link in the description, man. This going to be a good one, y'all. Y'all know I don't like holding y'all. Without further ado, let's get it.
Now, despite how Drake has tried to tear down Kendrick Lamar's current album release by attempting to make this moment about him, and regardless of the fact that GNX is an album that reaches such a high bar both in success and quality that for most rappers and musicians, this type of record would be enough for them to be able to rest for the foreseeable future. With both the response that is coming from this record and with all of the drama that people like Drake and even Lil Wayne have been creating because of it, this seems to be only ramping up Kendrick Lamar's plans for the immediate future even more, because after leaving behind subtle hints through his entire GNX album, and all through the branding and rollout of the project itself, we have now gotten even more confirmation about what is next for Kendrick and when these next moments may be going down to create another rift in music culture like nobody else can at the moment. And now before we go any further into this, be sure to leave a like and subscribe, it helps me out a ton. And so now when it comes to the current state of Kendrick Lamar's entire career really, while everyone who's checked in reality is praising GNX and the album has a ton of replay value, which is going to give it an extremely long run on the charts both in terms of total album sales and when it comes to having major hits. Now what we have found out further and further is that as this album has made a greater impact and despite being released so late in this historic year in hip-hop, that it's breaking massive records which even have gone as far as doing such things like already outstreaming the entirety of J. Cole's Might Delete Later project in just a week. Is that for Kendrick Lamar? GNX is nowhere near the endpoint of what he is doing, and that it's really the start of an entire new era from him. And just like a lot of the songs and subject matter on this album talks about, it's really the start and reincarnation of an entire new era for him. Because where when this album first came out, some people who have been near Kendrick were talking about the fact that he may have more on the way, now sources that are directly connected to Kendrick, PG Lang, and Top Dawg Entertainment have really and definitively confirmed that he is not done. As on Live recently, none other than the already super credible source in the West Coast's very own DJ Head was speaking to none other than not just any member of TDE, but the guy who Kendrick Lamar looked up to in terms of his rapping ability when they were coming up, and someone who has continued to be close to him all the way to the point where he was a focal point on GNX's Heart Part 6 track in none other than Absol. And as these two chatted on Live and went to the topic of where Kendrick Lamar is at and where he is going from here, as Absol was praising his good friend Kendrick for everything that he is doing right now, DJ had finished off their conversation saying some important words which read as, "I will say this, the homie ain't done. This is what Kendrick is on. You can take that however you want." And I mean, as Absol jumped right on board with what Head was saying here, more than any other West Coast rappers or people who maybe ended up in a few studio sessions with Kendrick Lamar, man, this is without a doubt the biggest confirmation we have heard about the fact that Kendrick is going to be dropping something even bigger than this, but the information doesn't stop here. Because another thing that's important to note is that aside from just another album, which Kendrick has now hinted at and others have seemingly confirmed, which we are going to get into even bigger news about that later, some other rappers who have been featured on GNX have done interviews after the album dropped, and the comments that stuck out most from all of these was most notably from an interview with Lefty, who's featured on the absolute banger of TV Off, and he said he heard Kendrick Lamar has a deluxe album. And now with these comments, which are saying that Kendrick Lamar is not even done with the GNX era itself. This is interesting and it could be promising, but again, it's important to note that we know these rappers have been in the studio in some capacity and created alongside Kendrick, but really with how Kendrick Lamar works and how a lot of the local rappers who are featured on these albums have been talking, despite the fact that they are on this record and a lot of them had great verses. I don't think these guys know what Kendrick Lamar's plan is, but I think what we can assume with from here is that he probably heard more music from Kendrick that didn't end up being on the actual GNX album. And based on the quality of what he heard and the conversations that were going on in the studio, he seemingly knows that there is some other music dropping. But with this idea of a deluxe, with all the info out there, there is just not enough to confirm this yet, unless the second car in the GNX trailer video is meant to indicate to the fact that there is just another half to GNX and that the next album Kendrick Lamar is going to be releasing outside of this era is just a whole entire other thing. But really, this seems to be unlikely because when we listen to GNX start to finish, despite lines where Kendrick is saying something like double back like a deluxe, which even with that just feels way too on the head to be revealing that an actual deluxe album is coming, Beyond any comments or speculation, just from the fact alone that The Heart Part 6 is on this record, which in the history of these grand Kendrick Lamar albums, the Heart series has always dropped right before a major album release, and whenever it comes out, that means that
I did hear that too. And I went back and I noticed that. That's true. He dropped The Heart and then he come with the joint.
We are not going to hear Kendrick Lamar on a song until the next album it's setting up releases. Overall, based on the 5 past installments of this series and how they have set up the albums that have dropped after them, more songs just adding on to this album, which already seems to be complete and perfect for what it is, just doesn't seem likely. It really would be a contradiction to everything Kendrick has done in the past. But now, while we're probably not going to see a GNX Deluxe, back to this second album from Kendrick Lamar. The biggest piece of news that we have found out about this record, beyond comments from Kendrick's own camp, has come from somebody who has major media sources and connections within the industry in none other than one of the faces in rap media with Joe Budden. And now on one of the most recent episodes of his podcast, Budden revealed a lot of insider information that has been filling in the gaps to stuff we just didn't know in this entire moment in time in hip-hop, which included on someone like Drake's end, revealing that the reason why him and Metro Boomin started beefing in the first place was because Drake said something super disrespectful about his mother, and when it came to how GNX was received by other rappers. Budden also broke the news that Lil Wayne tried to call up Kendrick after being mentioned on the intro track of the album Whacked Out Murals, and when Kendrick didn't answer, Wayne went into the studio to record something. And now, on top of major info reveals like this, what Joe and other members of the pod who know people all around the hip-hop and music industry and who have been within circles near Kendrick have been saying, is that they heard some snippets and small moments of music that Kendrick Lamar is working on that were not on GNX, and they alluded to the fact that if we thought GNX is amazing, that this upcoming next album from Kendrick is going to blow our minds, because from the ground up on this record, where GNX is an album that is leaning more than Kendrick Lamar ever has into his West Coast sound, what Kendrick Lamar is working on with this next record does not sound like it is from a particular region or place, and really it sounds like nothing we have ever heard at all, as it's instead embodying what
Facts. It's something we haven't been hearing. Especially that Heart Part 6, man. Yo, that joint is like that's like a summertime kick back. You know what I'm saying? The sun shining on you. That Heart, man, and the Man at the Garden. I just been kicking back, lighting my candles, and just like meditating, bro. Between me reacting to videos, just go kick back, recuperate a little bit, get my energy back up, and I'm back at it. You know what I mean? It's just beautiful, man.
Whatever he needs to in order to make what maybe could even become his best project ever if it lives up to anywhere near how hyped up it is. And so now with all of this information, while in this era we are at, we can't take what any one person says and trust it as fact. This all aligns with not just what seems likely, but when we look at the snippet of the song that Kendrick Lamar previewed in the GNX rollout trailer, this multi-layered track from Kendrick sounds like just what they have heard and described is all about, as where everything on GNX clearly is built with the West Coast influence in mind, from the beats to the features to even the concepts and stories being told on some of the narratively deeper tracks. This unnamed song Kendrick Lamar played sounds like nothing else that we saw on the actual GNX album. It really sounds like something way greater and more musically expansive than one region embodies. And so with all of this information, on some level and as much as we can for a rapper as mysterious as Kendrick Lamar, we do know a good deal about what this next album for him is going to be like and how it's going to feel and sound to an extent. And so with everything we know, from all of the signals and hints that Kendrick Lamar left himself, from the news about what industry insiders have heard, and the mere fact that the Heart Part 6 is...
Bro, y'all see when Kendrick Lamar was doing the push-ups on the roof? Everybody can't do that, bro. Everybody can't do that. Everybody can't do that.
On GNX, and that we all know, whenever an installment of the Heart series releases, there is an album right after to follow it. Overall, based on everything we know and where the industry is headed, as it's now the end of the year and this time is known for the music industry just to sit back and take off for a few weeks, with a release that, even despite how free and uncontrolled Kendrick Lamar works, has so much at stake for the entire music business and hip-hop world, I don't think we are going to see Kendrick Lamar drop another album this soon, because aside from anything else, what we know for a fact is that GNX also is an album that has power of its own. Kendrick Lamar drop another, that even despite how free and uncontrolled Kendrick Lamar works, has so much at stake for the entire music business and hip-hop world, I don't think we are going to see Kendrick Lamar drop another album this soon, because aside from anything...
You bugging. He about to drop again, man. What you talking about, man? I thought you was on board, fantastic hip-hop. But yeah, you're entitled to your own opinion. I believe he's going to drop. But yeah, it's so much alluding to that he's going to drop again. I don't know why you don't think that he's not going to drop. But yeah.
Anything else. What we know for a fact is that GNX also is an album that has power of its own and is going to dominate the charts in this time where no other music can even come close to creating the type of impact it has right now. But if Kendrick is not going to release in December, this then leaves us in January. And in the month leading up to the Super Bowl and also the Grammys, this is where things really get interesting because we know Kendrick Lamar is going to have the biggest moment of his career in terms of the viewership on him at this halftime show. And this would really be the perfect moment to just capture the most hype artists really can ever get. And based on records that have been inside the industry, we also know that Kendrick Lamar is planning a stadium tour for this summer, and that is running dates that will overlap around the same time that Coachella 2025 will, which is in April. So now knowing what is going on for Kendrick in 2025, and knowing that when it comes to touring, artists like to wait a few months to build hype, prepare, and let fans just know and understand their new work when they are playing it live, I think Kendrick is due for this groundbreaking and ambitious album to drop right around the winter and really based on where everything is heading. And also knowing how due to the fact that he has beaten Drake in every way possible. Kendrick has been handed the keys by the industry as the leader of rap as a business in addition to the people letting him lead things forward as an art form. I think we are going to see Kendrick breaking and April. So now knowing what is going on for Kendrick in 2025, and knowing that when it comes to touring, artists like to wait a few months to build hype, prepare, and let fans just know and understand their new work when they are playing it live, I think Kendrick is due for this groundbreaking and ambitious album to drop right around the winter and really based on where everything
was that
is heading. And also knowing how due to the fact that he has beaten Drake in every way possible. Kendrick has been handed the keys by the industry as the leader of rap as a business in addition to the people letting him lead things forward as an art form. I think we are going to see Kendrick come out around the end of January and early.
I thought the coat that Lil Man had on was the same coat that Drake had when he was staring at DeMar DeRozan. But I might be tripping though. I was like, damn, is Drake trolling with the same coat that Lil Man had on? But they ain't the same coat though.
Early February, and he is going to release a major single that is going to be maybe even a bigger hit or just as big as Not Like Us, and then right after the Super Bowl, with the hype of his 2024, the halftime show, and then a new hit single, we will then get this groundbreaking album. And we probably won't even have an official rollout because the Super Bowl is going to be a big enough moment, and the excitement of all of that will really be enough to propel Kendrick Lamar to have the biggest album release that hip-hop has seen in at least the last decade, but maybe even longer than that. But overall, with everything we know about this second and way more ambitious and large-scale album from Kendrick Lamar, what's clear is that when this record drops, if we thought the release and reaction to GNX was next level, this album is going to be one of the biggest moments we ever witness as not just hip-hop but music fans. And so now with all that said, let me know. What do you think about everything going around about this second Kendrick Lamar album, and what are your expectations for it? Now I can't wait to hear what you have to say about all of this, and if you
do you think Kendrick Lamar is going to drop the second album? If you do think he is, when do you think he's going to drop the next album? After the Super Bowl? And why do you think he's going to drop it? If you don't think he's going to drop a second album around the Super Bowl, why don't you think he's going to drop it? Y'all put it in the comment section what y'all think, man. Big Kish signing out. I'm gone.